Hey there, this is Real Talk Baseball. I'm CarloBaseball. With me as always is WillPower and Tony Snap. We already went through pitchers, catchers, first basemen, second basemen, shortstops, third basemen, and guess what? We reached to the outfielders. Are you guys pumped for this episode?
Yeah.
All right, man. You guys need to flex or something, dude. Come on. All right, so we're just going to get right into it. Top three, not center fielders, but top three outfielders. So we're going to start with you, Will. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm down.
Cool, man. Well, give me your top number one pick for outfield.
You know, Tony and I always say consistency is everything, and the most consistent player in baseball right now is Mike Trout. Whether it's outfield or any other position in baseball. Every single player has a down year, has slumps, goes up and down. This is the only guy that has been so consistent throughout his whole career, never has downs. This guy is always up. I want to say that I read a stat the other day that said that he has not gone more than 2 games without reaching base. So 2 games in a row is the most that he's ever gone without
on a slump.
That's his slump, man. That is
wow.
his slump. He is consistently over 400 OBP. He's always around 300 batting average, always around 40 home runs. His legs are slowing down a little bit. He doesn't steal bases like he used to, but he's still getting 15 to 20 home runs every season. Stolen bases every season. He is the most consistent player in baseball, and I know that he's probably not going to be the best outfielder for fantasy baseball next season, and that's fine. You can pick a flyer. You can go Mookie Betts. You can go Acuna or Soto or Yelich or Bellinger. All these guys are great options, but I'm going the safe route, and I'm going Mike Trout because I know that he's going to be great.
Wow, that's a really good intro, man. That's really cool, dude. Like you went all out. You're like Mike Trout. Hey, so he's your number one overall, or he's just overall?
If I had the number one pick overall in my draft, I am picking Mike Trout.
Oh, dude, that's really cool, man. You're passionate about this pick. You're like, yeah, that's my pick. I want this pick. Oh, dude. So you said he doesn't go over 2 games without getting on base. That's what you said.
I think the most that he's ever gone without getting on base is 2 games in a row.
Wow. That's an amazing
two games in a row. So he's never really had like a legit slump before his whole career.
So he's not one of those players that hot, cold. You know how
he's not a Bryce Harper
or a Corey Seager where he's hot and then he's really cold and then really hot. Wow, that's amazing. How many games does he play a year though? Does he play full season, or he's one of those players he's
up there, man? So
I do see that it's I guess in 162 game season he does play 159. He does sit out a little bit, right?
But he doesn't really sit out. It's been little injuries kind of here and there where it'll just be like soreness or a hit by pitch where he has a few games off. But he's never really had like a legit injury before.
Right.
From 2013 to 2016, he played over 155 games all those years. 2017, he was banged up a little bit, played 114 games. Next 2 seasons, it was 140 and then 134. But then this last season, he played 53. So he only sat out 7 games out of the season this past year.
And how old is he, dude?
29.
29, so he's under that 32-year mark, dude. So
yeah, man, he still has 2-3 years left in his prime, dude.
Yeah, I just can't. Man, I'm stuttering, dude, because I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say. No, I don't. You took everything that I had to say about Mike Trout because you said it very well. He's a very good player. He's an outstanding player on and off the field. I know this is fantasy baseball, but it's just Mike Trout's not given the credit that he deserves on this fantasy year. I don't know if it was a down year because of the 60 games, right? But I think Mike Trout's not a bad pick to be number one overall. If we're talking, not just outfielders, but we're talking about everything. And that's a really good pick, Will. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I went with the same guy. Mike Trout, hands down, number one. Should be at least top 3. ESPN has him top number
4,
10.
I think he's 4.
Oh, really? I just saw it today. I don't know if maybe the new rankings came out, but they have him down as overall ranking 10.
Wow.
Which is like ridiculous to me.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
His
he's
batting
definitely
average
top
did
3.
suffer a little bit last season, right? It was like down to like 280. But 60 games, man. I mean, not even that.
280. Oh, we're complaining about 280, guys.
280, like when his career batting average is 304, dude. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Man, nah, that's not right.
He still had an on-base percentage of 993. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers last year. I really don't know why he's not still the reigning king as to the number 1 spot. You know, he had 17 home runs, which is a great year.
Yeah.
For especially he played 53 games out of the 60. Let's see.
He's on top of his game still.
It's ridiculous. Slugging percentage 630. Like, come on. What more do you guys want? And just like Will always mentions these last few videos, he's just hitting his man strength, right? He's gonna be 30 years old this coming this year, I think. So I don't see why anybody wouldn't pick him round 1. Well, he is gonna go round 1 regardless, but mainly is why he's not number 1, you know, or at least top 3. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It shouldn't be one of those Jeopardy questions where like, what should I do? Should I just go with someone else or Mike Trout? Mike Trout's a great pick, and you chose him as number 1 too, Tony. Like, let's give me your number 2 then.
My number 2 is Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts.
Yeah, and this is probably
that.
it's just like Trout. I feel like Mookie Betts has been consistent throughout his career. If it's not Mike Trout, then it should be Mookie Betts as number 1. And I think they have Mookie Betts 6, which still seems kind of low to me. I mean, you can go ahead and do that, but I just don't see this guy slowing down either. Still going to be hitting for power, still going to be stealing bases, on base percentage. He's a great player, man. And you know, I always talk about it, having a supporting cast around you. He plays for the Dodgers. They're going to be competitive. They're going to want to win. And I just see, just like Trout, he's consistent, and there's no need for me to even think about who should be going in round 1, or you know what I mean? Like, Mookie Betts and Mike Trout have been number 1 or number 2 for, at least to me, these past maybe 3-4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I feel like they always switch.
And they were both American League for the longest time. At least we have one of them in the National League now.
Yeah.
The American League has been so good for so long. It's like, when's the National League finally going to win the All-Star game? You know, it's like every year the American League just has our number. But
oh man, I don't know about the All-Star game.
National League, there's a lot of superstars coming up in the National League, and then the American League is kind of on the decline now.
Yeah,
you still have a few superstars out there, but I mean, Juan Soto is coming up, Ronald Acuna, Mookie Betts. Like, all these guys are still so young. Mookie Betts is only 27.
Yeah.
Wow. He's only 27?
27 years old, man.
Oh man.
Well,
dude.
I scored on that signing so big. You
dude,
know?
I saw his hairline and I'm like, man, this guy's older.
The back.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm nothing against Mookie Betts. I hope, you know, whatever. I just don't. I just thought he was older, man. He's only 27. That's dope. Dude. That's dope. And then I guess the Dodgers did bank off of that. You know, they really did a good signing. Will, is that their number 2, or you have?
No, I was kind of going back and forth between Mookie Betts and Ronald Acuna, and I see Ronald Acuna as like a future Mookie Betts type. You know, where Mookie Betts he hits home runs, he steals bases, he hits for average, really good on base percentage. He's on a really good high scoring team. It was really hard for me to decide, but I went Mookie Betts number 2 also.
All right. And he has his stats. You know, Ronald Acuna has been in the league, 3-4 years, right?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you got Mookie Betts that has a more sample like size years.
He's in his 6th year,
7th year. Yeah. So Is that something that played a factor for you choosing them number 2?
Well, I think it's about just the track record, just because he's had so many more seasons than Acuna.
Yeah. So it's
2018. That was the year that Boston won the World Series, where there was some controversy about about stealing signs or like Apple Watches or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of shows in his stats a little bit that maybe he kind of took part of that. There wasn't really like a formal investigation like there was against the Astros, right? So we don't really know exactly what happened. No one was really caught on video like the way that the Astros were, but he had a 346 batting average in 2018. Yeah. A 640 slugging. It's a 1,078 OPS that season. That is insane, man.
That is insane.
346 batting average. He led the league in batting average that season.
I remember that season when they made it to the World Series. I saw those stats, and I didn't see that in the World Series or in the playoffs, in fact, with the Red Sox. I was like, I don't get to see him during the season because I don't follow the Red Sox that much, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody out here in LA gets to see those games a lot. But when he came to LA, I got to see all that. I got to see that 346 batting average that everybody was blowing up in the East Coast, right? And I got to see it out here in LA. I'm like, wow, this guy is a 5-tool player, probably even 6 if there's a 6-tool. It's just amazing, dude. I just saw one. Yeah, he's incredible, dude. Like, I don't disagree. And then you said the man streak comes in the 28th year, right? He's not even there yet. So
he's already, where is it at? He's averaging 30 home runs in a 162 game season.
Yeah.
So increase the pop a little bit, get 35 to 40.
Yeah.
He's going to be number 1. He's going to go ahead of Mike Trout if that happens.
Well, he's only younger than Mike Trout for 2 years, right? It's not that much. And he hasn't hit his man strength, like you said. I hope I don't lose it soon. Yeah. All right. So since that's number 2, like, let's just jump into number 3. Will, give me your number 3.
I mean, it's the guy that I was kind of going back and forth with Mookie Betts, and that's Ronald Acuna Jr.
Okay.
Just looking at his stats from the past 3 years, he had a down season this past season, 2020, 250 batting average, but he still hit 14 bombs.
Yeah.
He still kept that power. We never know. A lot of times batting average, it really suffers because you could have a perfect swing, perfect timing, perfect everything, but it's just hit right to a fielder.
Yeah.
It could be a line drive to center field. And if you have a really good defending center fielder out there, then a lot of them, they'll dive for the ball. They'll rob a home run, like we saw Mookie and Bellinger do in the playoffs last season. Mike Trout is notorious for robbing home runs. There's so many good outfielders out there. Same thing with line drives in the infield. A lot of these infielders, like look at Manny Machado and Nolan Arenado at the hot corner. If these guys are going to hit a line drive to third base, those type of fielders are going to catch it, which makes their batting average suffer. So a 60-game sample size, that's why I always say, like, I don't really take the stats from the individual player stats from 2020 into, I don't base that on my rankings at all this season. I combine it with the 2019 season. So that way it kind of gives me a bigger, broader, like a sample size, what I mean?
A more understanding of what the player is actually going to do for 2021.
Yeah, because you could have just like a streak of bad luck and hit the ball really well, but it's just hit at a defender every single time, or not every time, but 8 times out of 10. And then you end up with like a 2 to 250 batting average, and you didn't do anything wrong. It was just hitting the wrong part of the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And what stat is that? What are you looking at? Is that slugging?
Well, that's for batting average, but
average.
His career batting average is 281.
Yeah.
In the past 3 seasons. So if you take into account the 2020 season and add that to his career, it dropped it down to 281. I don't know what it was before that, but in 2019 he hit 280. 2018 he hit 293. So
in the 285, 286.
Yeah, if he can stay between like a 280 and 300, which I think he's really capable of. He has that sweet swing, right?
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be up there with Mookie Betts and Mike Trout for a really long time. And eventually he'll take over because he's only 22 years old.
He's young. He hasn't even hit man strength yet, man.
Imagine when he does, dude.
He's gonna be.
He averages 42 home runs a season. Man, this guy's going to be hitting 50 home runs by the time he's 26.
You think he's going to be able to like catch up to Barry Bonds to hit those?
You know what, though? Barry Bonds started off real slow. He wasn't a big power hitter in the beginning of his career. It wasn't until the injections kind of helped him a little bit to hit him out of the ballpark. But even when he stopped, man, he was still hitting home runs after that.
Yeah,
it's not just about like the performance enhancing drugs, right? It's also a mental game. You figure out your swing and you just ride with it.
You know, since you're on that topic, you know, I just want to go into it and say, you know, it takes more than just steroids to actually hit the ball. You need to have hand-eye coordination, and you know, MLB benefited from all these steroid users, and this is it's just getting out of hand. How many players are disgusted by, oh, they did steroids, they did this, but MLB actually benefited from it. Remember Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire chasing the what was it, the 62 home
ratings
runs?
Were super high.
Yeah, I remember they even stopped cartoons for me to watch the freaking Mark McGwire hit those home runs, you know? Yeah, so it's like, come on, don't let them in the Hall of Fame. I think
next year is Barry Bonds' final chance.
Yeah,
it's going to be his last year on the ballot. You know? So if he doesn't get in, that's it. And I think he got like 68% of votes this season, and it takes 75.
It takes 75%. So I don't know. Every time I went to Dodger Stadium and see the Dodgers and Giants games, I saw Barry Bonds step into the plate, and it was just scary just to see him hit. He was what was the stat? He was intentionally walked more than any other batter in the history of baseball. Exactly. And
hey, they even intentionally walked him during the home run derby. You guys remember that? That was hilarious.
That's a cool stat to have.
He got intentionally walked during the home run derby.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. And hopefully with Ken Griffey Jr., he's able to step in and kind of, you know, get into Manfred's ear and tell him to stop being such a dick. Seriously, because I honestly feel like baseball sometimes, you know, how I think it was 2 seasons ago they were doing the whole promotion about like let the kids play and they're gonna do this, but I feel like sometimes Manfred gets in his own way, you know. He's like
the baseball guy.
Exactly, and that I feel like Ken Griffey hopefully is a new breath of fresh air for the whole I guess upper echelon of, like, you know, all the people that makes these decisions. Hopefully they get the DH throughout the whole league.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that's just something that will benefit everybody. I know we're not gonna get the moments like you know, Greinke hitting home runs or you know like pitchers hitting home runs. Like,
but no one remembers. No one's going to remember Greinke for his home runs. No one's going to remember. I mean, maybe Madison Bumgarner, because he has the most home runs in the modern era for any starting pitcher. But but people are going to remember him for his playoff run, his where he pitched like game 6, and then he came in relief. No, I'm sorry, he pitched game 5, 8 innings, I think, and then he came in game 7 and in relief and pitched like another 60 pitches.
Yeah,
you know, that's the things that he's going to be remembered for, not hitting 3 home runs off of Kershaw or 7 in his career or something like that. Like that's a great stat for a pitcher, right? But what's his batting average at?
Yeah, they suck. Well, hopefully, like you said, Tony, Ken Griffey Jr. might do something different, and I know a lot of people are not going to agree with especially because they're Dodger fans, and we're actually saying that a Giant should be in the Hall of Fame, right? Is that what you guys are saying, or no?
I mean, I don't really consider. I mean, yes, he was on the Giants, but I don't see him as just a Giants player. I see him as one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Yeah,
dude, and that's what we're missing, man. Like, why are we so stuck on the steroid area? To where we're saying, you know, he could have been the best player to ever play the game, and we're actually just dismissing it. Like, no, man. I think we should actually just be like embracing it, like saying, I lived in the era of Barry Bonds.
Exactly.
Even though he was a Giant fan, who cares? Dude, this guy was freaking massive. Every time he stepped in, look, I'll just put it like that. You know who was the greatest closer the Dodgers ever had? Eric Gagne.
Yeah.
He will come out of the gate. He game over, right? Game over. And but he's going to face Barry Bonds. Oh my God.
You're scared.
Exactly. Every person in that stadium was feeling it. We're like, oh no. Like, I hope Barry Bonds doesn't hit him out. Guess what? They will battle it out. Big time.
Yeah.
Like a Goliath versus David or whatever it's called, It was just huge, man. It was a huge thing. I got to experience that. And I remember my heart racing. And I'm like, oh man, I hope Gagne doesn't give up this home run. And sometimes he did. He did, but we were up 2 runs, so that that didn't make a difference. But dude, I think we just need to go ahead and just go and say, hey, these guys use steroids. Fuck it. They used them. They did good for the sports. Now they're not using them, so now we see more injuries, and that's that. Yeah. So
I don't understand how baseball can let some things slide, but not others. Like you're going to allow certain players to cheat throughout their career, or teams to cheat throughout their career, and no repercussions. But then Barry Bonds, one of the greatest hitters of all time, was allegedly caught doing steroids, right? Because he went to court for it, and there were no findings other than his prescription use. So they don't even know exactly if it was steroids or because he never admitted it. Even in his book that he wrote, he said that he only took what his doctor prescribed, and he never took any more, never took anything else. So there's so many things that we could just go on and on about this subject. But I mean, I think we're all in agreement. I think most baseball fans agree that yes, he probably did steroids along with all these other guys that did also. A lot of pitchers that are in the Hall of Fame now use steroids at the time. It was the 90s. That's what they did. Late 80s and early 90s. Like when the steroid era kind of started in Russia, like back when they were like using them for the Olympics, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of came into our country, into the US, and professional athletes started using them. It's like if you weren't using them, you were the ones that were going to be kind of like left on the back burner. Yeah, be losing. Yeah. So everyone was losing back then.
Yeah.
There were a few guys that stayed clean, probably, but I mean, if everyone's doing it, how do you pick and choose who to punish and who not to?
I think that's when we needed to have someone say, "Hey, let the kids play and let them have fun." And that's what we were missing back then. But now they're getting punished for that, and that sucks, man.
And now it's fine. If like the current players, if they're going to get punished for steroid use because they have those rules in effect now, then it's different now. Like D. Gordon got suspended a couple seasons ago. Robinson Cano, most recently, just this past season, he's out for this whole season because he got caught. His second time. Yeah. How many times did A-Rod get caught? There's so many players out there that have gotten caught after those rules were put in place. But these guys like McGuire and Sosa and Barry Bonds, they were using these performance enhancing drugs before these rules were really like implemented. So why punish him if there were no rules in place at the time?
That's true.
And not just that, sometimes I feel like why punish the fans? We grew up in this era. We saw these players. Now when our kids are growing up, who are we going to talk about? Babe Ruth? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't grow up with these guys. We didn't see these guys play day in and day out. We didn't grow up with the memories and the moments where they just build these great legacies, because they are good players.
They are.
And I honestly feel like hopefully Ken Griffey can actually just step in there, take over, and be like, you know what? Maybe we didn't do it this year and put them into the Hall of Fame, but next year, I don't know if hopefully they don't drop off the list, because I think that you're only allowed a couple of times to be nominated. So hopefully, next year with Ken Griffey being into his second year as like a assistant commissioner, or I forget what he does
Senior
exactly.
advisor.
Yeah, senior advisor. Hopefully next year, these guys that go in there, that way we can tell our kids, about these guys. I just feel like
you made a great
I feel
point,
like
Tony.
baseball is going to be better for it, because
Yeah.
we're the fans, like we're not asking your opinion and what you think about it. Like, we're telling you our opinion. You should take it, and that's it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tony.
And the
That's
fans
a
are the
great
ones
point.
that matter. We're the
Exactly.
ones.
We're the one throwing the money at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
They should just leave it up to the fans sometimes. At least give the fans at least like one vote. You know what I mean? Or like a percentage of the vote. Like, because if you would have, I think a lot of these people, Pete Rose, man, comes into mind just because of the whole. And like earlier, you just talked about Alex Rodriguez. If baseball really had, or Manfred had a real grudge against steroids, why is Alex Rodriguez still on ESPN calling games and doing all this other stuff? If we're really gonna punish these guys, then let's punish them.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to be punished, regardless. Not even A-Rod. I think we should all just rise together as fans and look over it. Now we know that people were using it. Now the rules are implemented. Let's move on. Let's make these guys who did not necessarily follow the rules, but they were a part of these legacies, and I grew up watching them, and I would want to tell my kids, like, yeah, these Hall of Famer was awesome, and just things like that. That's what I don't know.
No, that's really good. Hey, no, that makes a lot of sense, because I would want to be able to say, hey, I went to Dodger Stadium and got to see Barry Bonds hit it out like a couple of times, and every time he stepped up in
Without
that
hearing
plate,
any excuses.
Just put an asterisk. Put an asterisk on there, just like they did on his home run record. They put an asterisk on there. Put him in the Hall of Fame and put an asterisk. I'm fine with it. I'm sure they'll be fine with it.
Yeah,
and move on. Everybody just keeps going.
Yeah, and it could be that, and I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a freaking a syringe thrown at the field at Dodger Stadium when Barry Bonds went there. Those are memories, though. Those are big time memories, and as a fan, I remember that stuff. Like, why wouldn't I want to tell my kids that?
Most of the Dodgers players at the time were probably juicing too.
They were. You got Paul Duca and Eric Gagne had on steroids. They got caught on steroids and they got suspended for it. I think Paul Duca got, and no one ever drafted him again. That was it. They were like, we're not going to pick you guys up anymore. That's it. And then you had Eric Gagne go to Boston and he sucked. He really sucked. So you're going to penalize all these other players that are going to go into the Hall of Fame and then not the guys that are like mediocre. Like, no, that's not right. Like, I think it's fair for MLB to think about the fans, like Tony said, and I didn't even think about that, Tony. Like, but you have these fans too that actually say, no, he did steroids, he did this. Like, no, that's not fair, dude. It was allowed. If they allowed it and the MLB actually made money off of it, why not let
they
him
turn the other cheek?
Hall of Fame? Yeah, so they profited out of it. They profited out of it, and now they're not allowing the fans to talk about it or be like, Barry Bonds, like he did steroids. Who cares? But every time he stepped up in the plate, guess what? He will hit a home run and people will go wild for it, right?
Even if he didn't hit the home run, right? Because steroids only help with power, but they don't help with contact. They don't help with timing. There's so many other aspects of hitting that the steroids that don't help, right? So if he didn't get the home runs, okay, then he would have got a bunch of doubles, right? Which his OPS still would have been through the roof. Mm-hmm. So he still would have been very close to the top in home runs for all time. I don't think that the steroids definitely helped.
I think
power production, but
to be honest, like when you guys say that, I think it's just way off. When people are on drugs, all their senses are heightened. All of them. It's
you
true.
think so? All of them? You think just all of them?
Steroids?
No. Dude, does this body look like it takes steroids? No, but I'm just saying, like, it does. Because, like, I mean, I just kind of don't want to make this comparison, but because it's not, like, baseball related. But, like, Nate Diaz from the UFC, or his brother Nick Diaz, they get penalized for smoking marijuana, but at the same time, I feel like it does give them an advantage because they get into like this Zen moment, and they feel like in the zone. And I feel like that's what steroids does to them. Like they just get, and baseball is an aggressive sport. As little contact as there is, it is an aggressive sport. You go up to the plate ready to smash a ball. Especially like during like high leverage situations. So I honestly feel like when you guys I feel like you guys are writing it off like, oh, it just gives you power. Like, hell no, I don't think so. At least I think it gives you like an extreme advantage, and we probably should get rid of that. And I know they're working towards it, but we shouldn't penalize guys when we didn't even have those rules.
Well, I don't know anyone personally that's taken steroids, and I haven't done any studies on it myself. So I'm only
I'm just kidding.
I never used it. What they're talking about? I never used that. What?
I'm only assuming that it helps with just the power production. I don't know for sure, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know either, but I just feel like it does heighten everybody's senses,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like we just ranted on and get going crazy.
It's cool though. Hey, it's cool because it's a topic that just happened. It's like Kurt Schilling just said that and send a email to the MLB, writers or whatever. Like he doesn't care.
And Kurt Schilling is they're holding him off for being controversial off the field, which isn't right either.
It's not.
The whole bloody sock. I mean, these moments are why we became fans, and baseball needs to get out of baseball's way and just give us a voice too. I feel like just like we have a voice during the All-Stars, I think they should give us a voice during Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. I mean, we're running out of time, but that was a great point. Who was your number 3, Tony? Before we log,
my number 3 was also Acuna. I feel like it was easy choice. I just want to, before I guess we right off to the sunset, I want to give Juan Soto an honorable mention because Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna are going to be the next Mike Trout and Mookie Betts.
I agree.
And these two players,
National League.
Yeah, they're great players. I feel like Soto and Acuna could have been my number 3. It was a toss-up. So that was my honorable mention before we left. Don't forget about Soto. Don't sleep on him.
Hey, he's exciting, man.
He's
you
good,
see him,
man.
Like when he stares at the pitcher, when he almost swings at a pitch and then he takes it and it's a ball.
Yeah, the Soto shuffle
side to side.
Exciting to watch. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I would hate that to be a pitcher, though. I'll be like, man, I hate you.
Hell yeah.
I'll try to hit you. I'll try to bean you. Well, I mean, thank you guys for the number 3. We got a lot of information, and we got the Hall of Fame for Barry Bonds. Hopefully he can get in there. And then, Kurt Schilling, too. Forget what he said. He's the bloody sock. Yeah, give the fans what they want. Yeah. So, and with that, if we don't have anything else to say, we go ahead and sign off. We do have our Twitter. We do have our Instagram. We do have our TikTok. And we have our own email. If you guys want to go ahead and email us, it's realtalkbaseball@yahoo.com. We also have a Spotify channel now. So if you guys go ahead and subscribe there and subscribe here on YouTube and leave us a message as well, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'm CarloBaseball. This is WillPower and Tony Snap. Real Talk Baseball, signing out.